Okay, well, welcome everyone. We're going to have the GCQ upgraded new features and insights webinar this afternoon. I'm Carrie Wandler, the Director of Policy Initiatives at MEC. I'm standing in for my colleague, Jenny Parks, who is unable to join us this afternoon. I just wanted to thank everyone for joining. We're going to be recording this, so we have a few housekeeping pieces of information here. We're going to be recording and then posting the recording to the website after the presentation. We welcome questions, but we would like to use the Q&A box for those questions, and we'll do our best to address those as they come up. Mary will post a link to the presentation in the chat. And upon closing out today's meeting, you'll have an opportunity to take a brief survey. Please do complete the survey to help us improve our future convenings. So as probably many of us know, the fastest growing segment of higher ed enrollment is dual enrollment students. So more high school students, more high school teachers who are qualified to teach such courses are needed to meet the demand of the dual enrollment courses. So the most common way for teachers to qualify to teach dual enrollment is for them to earn graduate credits in the content area that they teach. Sometimes finding those courses can be a challenge. So the Midwestern Higher Education Compact, or MEC, has developed the Graduate Credit Quest. So that's the GCQ in today's title, a website where universities can list graduate courses that teachers can take to work toward dual enrollment credentialing. And this afternoon, we have Jerry Murphy, who is a MEC consultant and guru of all things GCQ. He's going to be giving us a run through of some of the functionality of the website and some of its new upgraded features. So I'm going to turn it over to Jerry now.
Thank you, Carrie, and welcome everybody to this afternoon's program. I'm going to dive right in real quick here. So the agenda for today is really mostly focused on demonstrating the site, but it also gives an opportunity for us to talk about the importance of the three unique audiences that are the subject of or the object of this particular website. The website was designed around accelerating the decision-making process for teachers seeking credentialing. And in that, that work basically requires all three of these audiences to be kind of connected. They are in the real world too, by the way. They function and interact as needs be in the real world. What the site tries to do is to replicate that interaction and to do it in a fashion that certainly accelerates the ability of teachers to do their due diligence on locating and qualifying graduate level coursework in their content area. But that's the main theme or the main object of the site. As a standalone objective, it absolutely requires two other participating audiences, so I'll talk about that. In talking about the site, I'll also segment that by those audiences and do the navigation, the utilities that are built into the site for each of those unique audiences. This is the homepage view of the Graduate Credit Quest if you haven't been there. Basically, the simplicity of it is really what was the design function. In typical to a lot of websites, there's an about section up here on the right. A state by state is a description, an overview or a flyby view of dual enrollment, descriptions, programs, tuition support functions. Those type of things are covered for each of the states within the MEC footprint, the 12-state MEC footprint. We have a news page that's all things dual enrollment. It is myopically oriented to dual enrollment. So the site, if you were looking for bits and pieces around, say, research functions or just general information to become aware of other practices in other states or issues that are boiling to the surface, that's where you'll find that. But here are the three audiences in plain view. Universities. Universities are primarily attending this particular website because it affords them a unique capacity to market their graduate programming not only to their own state or their own sort of geographic marketplace, but also to the other states within the MEC region. The second group is the object, as I said, the object of the site, and then our teachers. And specifically, as Carrie mentioned, teachers who are seeking to accomplish credentialing or to meet minimum faculty standards or thresholds for teaching college level coursework. So really, this is the central theme of the site, and I'll talk more specifically about the utilities around that. And then the last audience, interrelated to the other two, are concurrent enrollment program coordinators, advisors at the school district level, anybody who is helping to sort of move along the pathway of advising and committing and moving a teacher to accomplish that goal of credentialing. So those are the three different audiences. The site has to have universities to have enough of an inventory or a menu of courses within a great variety of different content areas in order for it to be attractive to teachers. And teachers are basically, in most cases, are just in a really, really big hurry to get to credentialing. And that includes a big hurry in terms of trying to determine coursework that will meet the requirements of dual enrollment teachers. Advisors, this was really specifically designed, their role and their functionality is very, very close to that of teachers. Their combination or their conversations are ongoing in most cases. So the conversational capacity to facilitate that, the site was specifically targeting the ability to meet teachers and advisors or coordinators along the pathway of specifically getting them to the finish line. So the gateway to the site is the Find Your Courses. Anybody coming to this, even the public at large coming to this site, will basically, that's going to be their main key or their main objective in being on the site is to find courses. This takes them to this view, and this is actually a public view. This is not exclusive to the account holders for teachers, coordinators, or for universities, but this is the John Q. public who comes to the site, who's curious or maybe has heard of it. We did not have this particular avenue for outside visitors to the site to see how the site works. The public view enables this filtering system where a search can be reduced by state, by you selecting a university that's participating, by the content area, or by modality. Each of those arrows is a drop down and it will indicate the states that are participating, universities that are currently publishing coursework, and all the content areas that have historically been added to the site over time. If the public coming to the site then decides, hey, I'm pretty interested in this particular computer science program, they would click this Learn More button, and it would take them to this view. This might be a little bit hard to see, but basically what I want to demonstrate here is that you're going to see these repeating content areas for the subject or the course content and information about the university or information about the content area. All of that is basically collected under these particular data headings. You'll notice also that we use a lot of links. The cardinal rule of every website everywhere is don't ever let anybody leave the site. This is pretty contrary to that golden rule. And the reason for that is, as you all well know, content along modality, along date range for course offerings, around faculty assigned to teaching, all that specific information is really subject to change almost constantly. And so providing a web link or a link back to resources or information pages was really just an attempt to try to bring the teacher and or the coordinator or the advisor the best information, the most current information that we could provide. So you'll see down below here, I didn't quite get this on the screenshot, but the related courses, there'll be 2 layers of courses that are related to the subject or the filters that were used. So the public having access to this will basically see the course that they were interested in, but they'll also see other courses, and those could be across many different universities. So there's a number of different avenues for the public to basically get an idea of why this particular website and search engine would be of value to them. If in fact they do then sign on, the benefits that we anticipated, that we built into this, are for teachers and coordinators. It's basically organization. The ability for someone who's doing a search, and I'm sure you've all done this, where you've done some internet research, and suddenly you have 52 different bookmarks, and the organization starts to fall apart, particularly if you pick it up and put it down. And frankly, teachers looking for course content do exactly that. Each semester that they're anticipating taking course content, they frankly go back and reinvent the wheel. So this is really designed for a teacher to basically return to the scene of the last version or the last time that they signed into their account, because they can see all of their prior work in terms of organizing data. Coordinators, basically, this is just the mirror image of that, except that for some coordinators or advisors, this is really just a very cool and easy tool for those folks to basically make suggestions or create organized lists of courses for their teachers in their stable, for them to be able to advise those folks directly by making direct suggestions for courses that a teacher might consider. And then lastly, universities. I mean, I said this before, but this is really designed around university graduate program folks to be able to enhance their recruiting of students. What's really brand new about this, and it's a really, really extremely improved system from our version 1, is that university administrators basically control all of the administrative functions for their unique database of course listings. So the university can add on their schedule, at their will, can get back into their course content and change any one of those fields of information. If a teacher, for example, is swapped out, or a course is over enrolled and another section is added, those kinds of real-term adjustments to what they have and that they're publishing. And by publishing, I mean that is open to a view by the public or by the teachers who have accounts. So all of these benefits, all of these are uniquely tied to each of those separate audiences. But I hope that it's clear that although those are separate drivers, they are most definitely interrelated and interconnected by end game of their institution. They're counter, or they're interdependent on each other for success. So if you hit the sign in, you would basically get to this login page. Another question, because I know there are a couple of legacy users that are participating in the webinar. If you had an account prior to the launch of version 2, we're asking legacy users to please come back and essentially create a new password. New users would do basically the new password or the new set anyway, but we do need legacy folks to sign in. But anyway, you would just hit that blue box. And this is the form that we're asking folks to sign out. So it's name, rank, and serial number, but you also have to select a role. And again, here are our three audiences: teachers, coordinators, and university administrators. University administrators, teachers and coordinators basically follow the same track. University administrators follow a bit more detailed information in their sign-in. Universities, particularly new universities, also have to wait until we've had a chance, and this is the administrative back office side of the site, but we want to make sure that the universities that are tapping into the site are first from one of the member states, one of the 12 member states for MEC. That's the first cut. And then secondly, we want all the universities that are offering graduate programming to have demonstrated on their website or through our evaluation that they are accredited. So it isn't a difficult bar to hit, but it does take a little time. And so once university administrators have concluded the registration, they'll get this message. I'm the guy behind the curtain. So as soon as I get to validating, particularly a new university, they'll get a message from me or from the administrator. So this is the view that a teacher or a coordinator would see. There are a couple that on the left-hand side, these are operational menus. There are the actions for browse courses, and those are all the courses in the database that are open. The planning piece I'll talk about in a minute, but also there's a count activity here. So teachers and coordinators, there's some tutorials, there's a tutorial video, there's some FAQs, and settings is basically just to enable users to reset their password or to change their password if they needed to do that. The filters are similar to those that you saw. In fact, they're very much the same as the ones that you saw for the public view. I've selected a couple here, computer science, and I want an online delivery. And by the way, academic field selection and modality are probably the two biggest filters. There is a propensity for teachers to want to stay close to home. So they may have an alma mater or they may have a particular state, but in most cases, most teachers will utilize those two filters. In this case, I had online and computer science, and I picked these three courses, okay? Now I can introduce how and what the organizational capacity is on the site. They can see in each of those courses, they're going to get three chunks of information. Basic course information, contact information, which is really, really vital for anybody on the university side who is attending this webinar. It's really uber important that all of the fields of information about an individual course are filled out, because this is really the due diligence of these folks is inhibited by the lack of information, let me put it that way. And the last piece here, the last chunk of information are: when is this course? When does it start? When does it end? Can I get information about the program, the university, the department? And then finally, give me a connection to the enrollment or application process. And this is pretty consistent across virtually all of the courses in the database. So if I decided that I really like this computer science class, and I want to add it to my plan, these plans are basically named lists of courses. In this case, in this example, I have two plans in here, the course options for summer 2025, and then I also have a test plan Z. And I don't have any courses selected for my course options for summer 25, but I do have 3 classes that I preemptively picked for test plan Z. So I want to pull one of those up, and you can see there are my 3 computer classes. I picked all 3, and I want to basically do a deep dive on all 3 of those. But I also, and I can, and by the way, I can click on these boxes and do sort of bulk actions of deleting, or editing can be done for the plan's name. I can delete the plan entirely if I'm done. But more importantly, once I have this list, I can come back to this, next year. If, for example, I chose not to take a particular computer science course, I could elect to come back in the next semester or in the next cycle where I am taking coursework and basically find that same course, find out if it's still open, and if it's not, when it will be open. And basically I don't have to go back and start from square zero. If I choose to share a plan, so if I wanted to choose, if I wanted to share test plan Z with my advisor or a good friend who's going along with me on this venture, or my supervisor, my coordinator, all you need is an email address, a transmittal that says, hey, Joe, would you please take a look at this list of courses I'm considering and give me your feedback. And basically all you need is an email address. In the prior version of this, this particular functionality, which was requested by coordinators and teachers, was very cumbersome. And we heard that from a lot of users, that it was too snaggled in detail for being able to utilize it. This is super duper simple. So you pick the plan, you pick the courses within the plan, and you basically type in an email address, tell whoever it is why you're reaching out to them, and basically they get that list. And frankly, they can go and open that list and go and view those same 3 chunks of information for the coursework. So if you were sharing it with someone who was making a adjudication on whether or not a particular course would meet faculty minimum faculty standards for the receiving or credit granting institution, this would be a really, really slick way to do that. That person can then forward the email to a dean or a provost or whoever. So the process is incredibly enhanced and very, very, very much accelerated. So that ends the piece for the teachers and the coordinators. And just to sort of recap, then this basically enables this website for those 2 folks, those 2 groups of folks, enables folks to basically access pretty detailed information, and if not information, then connections to very detailed information about a particular course. An example of that would be a teacher, and I've heard this from teachers, if a teacher asks me specifically, hey, how much does this cost? Again, as many of you will well know and can attest, that could be a question of the course, of a fee, of an application fee. So it's not typically, the answer is 2. So in those cases, I would steer those folks back to that course content information and the links that are on there for the university. Again, for the universities on the call, that's why it's incredibly important to make sure that you fill in all of the fields of information, and particularly what I'm referencing is the contact information and the university links. Those are really critically important. The other point there for teachers and coordinators is this is an organizational tool and enables folks to really kind of keep track of what it is that they are doing. Now, a coordinator can use that same perspective to basically track a teacher's progress. If under the new HLC rules, you had to demonstrate or potentially demonstrate best effort, this is a good tool to be able to record that best effort and to keep at least another vehicle for a coordinator, for a teacher to be able to demonstrate effort. And then the ability to communicate. I wish I could show you the bad example, which was the original version, but the version that's on there now is just so slick and easy that we think that folks will really enjoy that. I'm going to jump quickly into the administrators, but first maybe I should pause and see if there is a question on anything so far. I can answer questions at the back end too. So if you have a question, that's fine.
I don't
Okay.
think there's any questions so far. I think everyone's tracking.
Okay, well, that's because you've got an excellent presenter, right?
Must be.
Okay, so on to university administrators. This is basically the same operational menu that you saw with teachers, but there is obviously there's a next a set of actions here. So the university management piece is really around course management. Actions are exactly the same as what I just described for teachers and for coordinators. And the count activity is exactly the same for being able to find information about how to navigate the site or onboard, use of the site, FAQs, and again, password resets. The reason why the actions of the coordinators and teachers was held on this menu was because we discovered that in a number of universities, this is an era of people having 100 hats. And what we discovered is that there were a number of university administrators who were actually acting in a coordinating role as well. And so what this menu enables that university administrator who is also performing coordinating activities or advising activities, this enables them to basically make use of the utility tools, communication, and capacity to browse the entire database. Under university management, in this particular example, and frankly, I don't know which university I pulled this from, but they had 395 courses in their database. That doesn't mean that they had 395 of their courses published. It could, but it probably doesn't mean that. It means that of that 395 courses, that's the historical database of courses that this university has put into their exclusive account. They can make them publishable by updating them, by giving them a new date range, for example, that's a forward date. So that's why there are 3 functions here, and one of the functional areas includes both teacher and coordinator functions. Again, this is my 3rd or 4th commercial. Please fill out this information. This is really critical information for universities to make sure that they put in. This is contact information for us as well. Most of the energy and effort that university administrators do on the site preempts the enrollment period. It's when course content, course schedules are published or released. Typically, that's when university administrators are back on the site, updating their course content to enable adding new coursework or bringing in many new courses, which is what they can do if they use the bulk importer. They can also go in and edit courses by simply changing a date. If they were going to offer a course the next semester, they could simply go in and change the date and republish it. So once that data is in, the editing of that data can be significantly accelerated in terms of management. This is what a teacher or a university administrator would be looking at. And again, these are exclusively their courses. Okay, so they're not looking at this universe of 1,123 courses that teachers look at. They're looking at only their course content. In fact, the administrator's capacity for administrative functions, they can't get into another university's database. So this is their exclusive information. So in this case, most universities would probably screen by published and unpublished. If a course is unpublished, they could go into actions, and if they're not going to offer this course anymore, or they're not going to offer it for some time, they can delete it. They can use that same bulk activity process by checking boxes, so they can very rapidly manage course content that's in their database. They can do it by academic field. So if they were doing department by department or college by college, they could do it that way. Date range, if they wanted to just see the most recent or the most, or maybe a range of dates, they could do that. The filters, as I said, and again, you can have as many filters like into the other search engine. You can have as many filters as possible. The actions are editing mostly, or editing, including deleting. Adding new, I'm going to talk about that in a second. And you could, if you were simply adding one new course, or you had forgotten one course, or someone added a course late in the enrollment period, you could just go back and add one course. The other alternative is bulk import, and that's where you're importing many, many courses at one time. Well, let's talk about adding just one. So this should be uber familiar to you by now, because these are those three chunks of information. So the university information, contact information, and then the settings for the semester, modality, when, credits. Once that's done, and assuming these dates are forward dates, because you cannot publish, it won't accept a course if the date range is in the past. But anyway, once you fill this all in, you hit publish and create, and at that point, the course is public. So it can be viewed at that time by anyone visiting the site. A bulk importer is just like what it sounds. We basically provide this template, and I'll just run through these steps because it's that laid out, but we provide a template, an Excel spreadsheet template. The headings at the top are all of those fields of information that we request in each of those three chunks of information that I've been showing you all along. You cut and paste the courses from whatever your source points are. They could be course schedules, catalogs, whatever. Most universities have that information in a fairly consumable form. Most universities, we're not asking you to go out and invent information. We may be asking you to go out and aggregate those reports or those schedules, but the information exists. And so it's a matter of cutting and pasting that information into the appropriate columns. Check the template just to make sure that you haven't gone cattywampus on some cut and paste. Save it as a CSV file. And then this is all done on your computer, right? So we're going to open up this a spreadsheet, and here's the fields of study, course number, all of those headings relate to the field of information. You're going to fill that in. Then basically once that is saved on your machine, you come up here to browse, you hit browse, you find it, double click on it or open, and it automatically gets downloaded to your account. That's how simple it is. And to be honest with you, over the last 3 years, more and more and more universities are choosing to do the bulk import. I think once the template is comfortable And once they have a routine for how that information is aggregated, I think it just becomes really super easy to do that than to try to do them one at a time. Uh, this page, excuse me, this page also has a whole lot of information, definitions of all of those terms for the fields of information. And there's also a tutorial video that walks you through those 9 steps. So that's basically it. My hope in this discussion is that this all sounds way simple. I hope that we've taken a lot of the complexity out of what is, and you know, legitimately a complex task of bringing 3 disparate but uniquely connected, interconnected audiences to one site. But that's basically it for the universities. Um, I think I'm pretty close to the conclusion of the demonstration of the site. So I want to have any questions that are out there. I want to address those. And if there are a few, or we can get through those quickly, I can also show you some of the diagnostics that we built into the new site. So, Carrie, I'll open that up for questions.
No, I don't think that there's any audience questions so far. I don't see any in the chat. I think we do have some legacy users, yeah, some people who are familiar with it. Did you want to talk a little bit about the cost, how it relates?
Let me just run through anticipation of folks' questions. I wanted to ask some of my own. Because these are questions that I get asked. And so I thought maybe if they didn't get raised in the conversation, it didn't occur to you that then we can maybe get to these and add to your knowledge base here. And there's no cost whatsoever to the graduate credit class. Midwest Higher Education Compact is underwriting this tool. They see it as a member state benefit, and they also see it as helping the broader context of the sort of base point that Carrie raised in the introduction, that folks in some places are doing really well at managing dual enrollment, credential dual enrollment teacher recruitment. But there are others, frankly, that are really struggling on this. And this is a uniquely tough time in education. I think most would agree. But so to enhance that ability and to advance other policy initiatives around dual enrollment, MEC felt that this was a tool that they felt could add some value in some dimension or some resourcefulness to those who are trying to, you know, basically react to trying to accelerate the volume of new teachers and particularly new dual enrollment teachers into their systems. GCQ and HLC, I sort of referred to that, but the site really isn't designed to direct or advise teachers. It was built in the environment of the HLC rules around 18 credits as the benchmark, and many states are still following that same directive. But even under those circumstances, the designers for the site recognized that a lot of the decision making around what constitutes a credentialed or qualified dual enrollment teacher were really vary from state to state, within states, from credit granting institution to credit granting institution, and in some cases, even within an institution. And so the site was really uniquely designed around providing as much information as possible to enable teachers to engage their advisors or their coordinators or their supervisors around a common conversation point about very specific course content that's under consideration. So the site is unique in that regard. It recognizes that rigor around college level programming is incredibly important, but it also recognized that adjudicating that and putting a cookie cutter kind of approach to it was simply not going to work. And so we're uber aware of HLC. MEC has a very strong relationship with HLC, but this tool was an adjunct to other policy initiatives that MEC is pursuing. I think I've made a point. I hopefully have made a point that this tool should be able to complement whatever you're doing in terms of recruiting, particularly at that graduate level. What we hope with the new version, and the new version, by the way, without getting into the technology of it, but the new version really reorganized the way that the data is stored, and I mean all the data. So all the fields, all the courses, all of the references to each one of those fields was significantly redone, reorganized, without losing anything, by the way. So in doing that, we did that in anticipation of working with university users of the site to better enhance our ability to advise them or to jointly chase after joint marketing using the tool. So
You have a question that I think is kind of related to that,
okay.
about marketing too, is do any of the universities offer discounts on credit hour costs for users that enroll through this process?
Oh, that'd be great. I mean, that would be awesome. Yeah, whoever that is, I'd love to talk to you about that. No one does that now. We have just initiated a pilot project. I think somebody from UWM is on the call, but I'll describe it real briefly. It's an experiment around being able to take the site analytics and be able to use those with a university user and their site analytics and start to try to drive at least an understanding of where their graduate interest is coming from. And specifically in our case, if any or all of what they're seeing is coming from teachers using the graduate credit quest. And so we've just entered into this pilot, and so the information is still being shaped, but eventually the intent is to create that kind of value with all university partners using the site, so that we would be cross-pollinating university best practices to university best practices in terms of enhancing existing or expanded recruiting activity. So we recognized when we were rebuilding the site that we really needed to build in the capacity to see more detail about the users, their user preference, where they're going, how they're navigating. That's important to not just being able to market the site better, but it's also important for universities then to understand that teachers and visitors to the graduate credit quest are actually telling us, they're telling us what kinds of content is popular, what fields are content areas are popular, which are not, So we're very, very early in this process, but in fact, how much time do we have? I can take us to just a quick view, if you don't mind, Carrie, of a site analytic that we're working with UWM, if that's want to do that.
Yeah, I think that would be terrific.
Okay, then I'm gonna stop sharing here for a minute.
So Jerry, you are going to be sharing with us the analytics that are pulled from the GCQ.
That's correct.
Okay.
If,
And then individual, there is this appetite potentially for individual institutions to have a more granular look, and that's the focus of the pilot. Is that correct?
that's correct. And pilot is not that just that one dimension. It's awful, and frankly, it's wide open. The lab coats are very definitely on for this to really determine what kinds of tools can or joint efforts with our partners, with our university partners, can we do to enhance their success?
Mhm.
Just for my
No, we've just had another question come in, so I can read that as you're getting your stuff together here. So it says, as a community college, this is from Dan McDonald. As a community college, I'm anticipating encouraging my sender high schools to use this site to locate graduate courses. I've had some issues with online courses not meeting rigor levels to be accepted as graduate level courses. How are these courses vetted so we can be assured that this is just not a pay your fee, get your B type course? Also, please
yeah.
verify that there are in-person courses available also.
Let me answer the last one. Absolutely, there are university users who have been using the graduate credit class as a marketing tool within their geographic reach. So in person, I think there's 4 or 5 modality characteristics: online, asynchronous, synchronous, and in person. So, those modalities are all selections within each course description. You could search by that and be able to identify courses that are offered in person. In terms of the rigor, and that kind of goes to, Daniel, that kind of goes to the conversation about how does anybody discern whether or not a particular course is going to meet the faculty standards of receiving a credit granting institution. So I think sort of the breadcrumb path to answering that question is really in part the due diligence that you would win in seeing that information firsthand. So we've given you links, we've given you capacity, we've given you contact persons and information about the course. If that needs to be vetted further, then I think there is a step then to the outreach to the institution. All of the institutions that are using this site are accredited. The majority of them, I'm going to say 100% of them are HLC. But that's the only safeguard that's the only real kind of cut point that we have. What we're offering in exchange for not adjudicating the validity, the veracity, or the rigor of any particular course is to make sure that we're giving you the pathway to get to that. Carrie, anything to add?
No, I don't think so. And there could be, I mean, I can imagine a scenario wherein you can kind of do a directed referral to your group of the group that you outreach as well, right? Is that you can have a few institutions or a few courses even that you are, kind of just drawing their attention to through the website as well. So there could be kind of a guiding of the navigation of the site as you direct people to it too, I imagine. I don't know if any of the users that are on too want to share anything about, it doesn't necessarily need to be questions as well. If there's any use cases or best practices that you've come across, in your engagement with the graduate credit quest so far. I mean, that's always welcome fodder for discussion as well.
So the one baby step that we've taken, and I'm saying baby step because I think that there'll be more and more. Uh, but one that we've taken with our pilot relationship with UW Milwaukee is their graduate school. They've changed the link on their course information from sort of a generic um, website reference to their graduate school to a dedicated landing page. And so anybody coming through the graduate credit class who is looking for additional information can hit that link. And basically, UWM is going to see that when they do their analytics. They're going to see that that was the pathway for that particular inquiry. So, and I fully expect that that's going to be fairly common, that we're going to find all kinds of opportunities for, and then, in the end game is not just to benefit the pilot institutions, but to benefit all of the universities that are using the site. Okay, I'm ready. I apologize, everyone, for a delay there.
I wish I had a drum roll
Yes, exactly.
to kind of,
Okay.
I'm seeing it. Great.
Okay, wonderful. So this is for the period March 1st to March 31st of this year. You can see the number of users and when they bounce around on the calendar. You can see that the primary concentration right now is folks in Wisconsin have been using the site a lot. Folks in Minnesota, Iowa, Kansas, virtually all the MEC states have some activity on the site. These, frankly, I can look for these for the cities, but I'm going to guess that those are likely bots that are pinging the site. We can also see the cities that they come from. We can see where they're coming from, the total users. Most folks are plugging in to get to the database. So that's really refreshing. As they come in, that's the primary objective for them when they get to the site. And then we can count specifically along where they come and how they enter the site. The next piece is a little bit more deeper of a dive. Currently, there are 39 educators currently that are using the site. There are 14 institutions that are publishing courses out of the 30 or so that have accounts. And that, by the way, that number goes up and down depending on the institution, the point in time in the calendar even. But that will change over time. And then here we can see folks coming from Minnesota's pathway to 18, grad credit quest, that's a search, dual enrollment teacher requirements as a search thing, 18 online, college and high school alliance, South Dakota. So, we can see that the sites of user volume or whatever is uniquely trackable now, where and frankly, we couldn't do that in our last version. Here you can see that African American Studies is the most popular, at least in this search period. Mathematics is second, econ was third. So let's see. At UWM, now this is drilling down specifically to UWM, and this time frame, 266 visits. These are the specific course paths that people have pinged in this period. So 5 folks went to the education department, economics, African and African studies, I think, art, psychology. So I don't have to dwell on that, but what I do want to say is that we have the ability, the capacity now to really elevate our game for working with partners across this platform. And so hopefully hopefully this has been useful, helpful, particularly for folks that are new to the graduate credit class. For folks that are legacy users that have come back for information on the new version, I think you'll recognize a lot of similarities in version 1 and version 2. But hopefully, I dearly hope that you can see that we really, really streamlined a lot of work that was heretofore a function of the administrator in the front end. Anyway, it's been my pleasure. I hope everybody enjoyed it.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. A huge thank you to Jerry for running through the GCQ site with us. And a reminder to please complete our survey. The survey will be available when you exit the webinar, and the link will be placed in the chat. So we've already posted the presentation to the website, and we'll be posting the recording of today's event soon. It'll be available on the MEC website. Please feel free to register for our next event on May 20th. We'll be joined by Jennifer Zinth, fan favorite, for dual enrollment funding models. Where does your state stand? So please don't miss that opportunity to engage with her research. And we hope you'll keep informed with MEC by subscribing to our website. We do have quarterly dual enrollment updates, and we hope you'll join us in subscribing and accessing our content there. So thank you again for joining us, everybody, and have a good afternoon.